Alright, this week in wrestling, there is a lot to cover. It's more like this week and a half in wrestling. I didn't do a video on Friday like I planned to. I probably won't stick to that anyway, but I would have liked to have done this series every Friday. Anyway, lot to catch up on. Let's just get right to it. Last Saturday, NXT Takeover Brooklyn. Hell of a show. Absolutely loved it from top to bottom. It was just so enjoyable. It felt so trim at like 2.5 hours. You know, I really wish that the WWE pay-per-views felt like that. They felt like you're wanting more at the end rather than you wanting it to end, which we'll get to. Some great moments like Austin Aries and No Way Jose opening the show. I had kind of heard so much about Austin Aries over the years. Like 10 years ago, my mates would be raving over him. I never really saw him wrestle, never really got the hype until this show. I really loved his in-ring work, really enjoyable. His like suicide dive through the bottom rope was incredible. And then like, you know, Bobby Roode's entrance was a lot of fun. And then you got the big three matches. Oh no, Ember Moon's debut I thought was fantastic. I loved how it wasn't just a squash match, it was back and forth. She showed off her athleticism, so hopefully she'll be pretty good for the NXT women's division. Tag team title match, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa versus The Revival. Incredible match, probably my match of the year so far. Absolutely loved it from start to finish. It was fantastic. That is how you do believable near falls at the end of a match without spamming finishes. You know, they just nailed it like just perfectly. You know, the crowd was just absolutely going mental for, you know, not finishes, just really well executed spots. The work was just off the charts. Fantastic match. Really wasn't expecting it to be that good, but it really was. I love the Revival. They're such a great tag team. Really a big fan of their wrestling. Match of the night for sure. Then we had Bayley versus Asuka, which was a really good match but disappointing. I was expecting more. I'm a big Bayley fan. I'm a big Asuka fan. Their last match was great. This one was really good, not quite great. They kind of got a bit discombobulated in the middle there. Kind of, they weren't sure. You know, they kind of messed up a spot, and then it seemed to kind of kill the flow a little bit. But it ended strong, and it was a really good story and a good ending, and a nice send-off for Bayley. As we now know, she's on the main roster. Then we had the main event, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe. I was so excited for this one. It kind of delivered exactly what I thought it would. Hard-hitting action, just really stiff, but really competitive match. The entrance by Nakamura was fantastic. Everyone was raving about that. It was really, really cool. Some people on Twitter were saying it was like the best entrance of all time. I think that was taking it a little bit too far, but it was still great. And it was a really nice physical match. I really enjoyed it. So a couple of good near falls. They didn't overdo it. It was more, again, more competitive and more kind of believable style. I should put a strong style. And the ending, where, you know, he literally dislocated Samoa Joe's jaw, was just a gripping ending to the night. And, you know, Nakamura wins the title, and that's fantastic. Two Japanese wrestlers are kind of the champions of NXT. I think that's really cool. Whether we'll ever see that in the main roster, in fact, we never will, I don't think. But it's interesting to kind of look at that. You know, the two Japanese stars kind of being the, you know, the faces of NXT now. So that was NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I could have just ended the weekend right there, but we had SummerSlam the next night. There was a 2-hour pre-show. I kind of had it on in the background, wasn't really watching it. You know, I watched some of the matches and stuff. I was really gutted that Sami Zayn wasn't on the main card. I couldn't believe after that, like, you know, that show stealer he had with Kevin Owens at Battleground, that he wasn't on the main show of SummerSlam. I was baffled by that. I don't know why you don't put him in the match with The Miz for the IC title. It doesn't have to win it, but it would have been a great match. But, you know, teaming in with Neville against the Dudley Boys, it was fine. Some other matches on the pre-show were what they were. Then the main show starts, and we're in for a 4-hour ride. They've bumped up SummerSlam to 4 hours long now. It's like, oh god, here we go. Opening match was great. You know, Cass and Enzo, great. You know, pop for them when they came out in their kind of home turf. Against Jericho and Kevin Owens. Jericho, love their team. They're a lot of fun together. It's good to see that Kevin Owens, while he can be that kind of sadistic, aggressive heel, he really can kind of, much like Jericho, can kind of bring himself down a little bit to the comedic stuff, but it doesn't hurt his character at the same time, which I think is really impressive. He was cracking me up throughout the match. There's a bit where he blows a kiss at Jericho on the ropes. He's like, "I love you, Chris," and then he does a move, which is brilliant. And they won the match, surprisingly. Good opener. I'm not going to go through the whole card, but next we had Charlotte versus Sasha Banks. Was really looking forward to this one, and this match was really, really difficult to watch because near the beginning, Charlotte just very haphazardly dropped Sasha Banks onto the top rope. A very weird move that didn't look good at all, and then Sasha ended up landing right on the back of her neck, and I was really worried that she'd hurt herself big time. She kept clutching her back. They kind of worked that into the match, I think. It can't have been the plan for it to end up like that, but Charlotte was working over her back. I thought that was really smart. Then they did another huge spot off the top rope, which I could have almost seen Sasha landing on her head from. It was just really scary. I was just thinking, why is Sasha Banks doing all this? I mean, she's so good, and she can have great matches without doing these really risky spots. I just felt like saying to her, look, you're great, I appreciate the heart and guts you got to put on a good show for people, but you don't need to take those risks. But it was still a really, really good match. Amazing finish. I really loved the ending to that match. I wasn't quite expecting Charlotte to go over, but apparently Sasha has been banged up for a while, so she's taken some time off. And yeah, she's lucky she didn't receive a serious injury in that match, because that spot where she landed on the back of her head was really not good. But it was a good match, and I look forward to seeing her return, and hopefully she takes a little, a little more kind of a cautious approach to her wrestling. I mean, when she won the title a few weeks ago, she did that suicide dive and almost scorpioned all the way over like Lita did when she broke her neck. So she needs to be careful with those big spots, I think, because they don't seem to be going too well for her lately. Then we had, what else was there? Again, not going to go through every while. Miz and Apollo Crews, whatever. AJ Styles, John Cena. Didn't really like it initially, I'll be honest. To me, the match was ruined because the whole time I could just hear Cena talking. And I was watching a match on SmackDown. It was Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose. Not Dean Ambrose. Dolph Ziggler versus AJ Styles from this week's SmackDown. Really, really good match. But like, I saw this moment where AJ Styles was talking to Dolph Ziggler, and I could hear him going... Alright, now it's one thing to hear a wrestler speaking to another wrestler like, but when it's John Cena, it's like, toss you off the ropes, doing the John, okay? Like, it is so loud, and like, he's always talking, and I was saying, like, does Cena know that you can plan a match beforehand? That you can actually talk to the person you're about to wrestle? Because he was just calling the whole thing so audibly that I couldn't get into it. And I enjoyed the athleticism and stuff, and the drama, but I just wasn't really digging it. I watched it again a couple of days later with Connie, and for some reason I didn't notice it as much. I don't know, and she really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it a lot more. It was a great match, and AJ Styles is just phenomenal. I didn't even plan to say that, no pun intended whatsoever. He really is that good. Definitely the best performer in the company right now, AJ Styles. I've really grown on him. He's really grown on me, I should say. And it was a really good match to kind of send Cena off for a while. It'll be interesting to see if they continue the feud down the line. But yeah, star-making moment for AJ Styles in terms of the WWE, and definitely cement himself as one of the top guys in the WWE, which is really cool. Other matches, we had the 2 title matches, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler. That was what it was. It just, the crowd wasn't into it, and so it was hard to get into it. It was a good match. Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins, really, really good match. The crowd, however, took a big dump over the fact that the Universal Championship it didn't look bad. I think that's the key thing here, that people think that everyone thinks it looks like shit. I don't think that's the case. I think people were just disappointed that we have a chance for a new World Championship, and it's just the same as the other one, but with a red strap, and just Universal Champion on the bottom. It seemed lazy, it seemed tacked on, it seemed last minute. The name of it, Universal title, isn't very good either, so I get it. They unveil the title, the crowd boos, fair enough. That belt sucks. Cool, voice your opinion. But once the match has started, there's no reason to keep focusing on the belt, so I really was disappointed in the Brooklyn crowd for harping on about the belt throughout the middle of that match and not really paying attention to Finn and Seth putting on this match where, at that point, Finn Balor had dislocated his shoulder, popped it back in, and was, looking at his last match for, at least 6 months. So he wins the title. It was a good match. Really enjoyed it, but it's hard to kind of look back on that match too fondly when the crowd were just kind of being a bit disrespectful, in my opinion, when the story of the match should have been those two fighting for that title, not how the belt looked and how people didn't like that, I think. And then, yeah, so Finn Balor injured. I couldn't believe it. I was gutted for him because, he's not getting any younger. But he is kind of in the prime of his life in terms of wrestling. He definitely has got a few years left if nothing else bad happens. But it's a real shame that the night he gets the biggest break of his career, is the night that he also kind of gets it taken out from him. It very much reminds me of Daniel Bryan in a way. I hope it doesn't go the same way as that. Obviously the shoulder is completely different to the neck issues and concussion issues that Bryan had, but still it makes you wonder. There was the six women's tag match. That was alright. They did some good stuff. Very much a buffer match, but it's good to see 2 women's matches on the show. And then finally, and I probably missed something, but we had the main event. Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton. Brock Lesnar took Randy Orton to Suplex City. Yeah, I'm kind of getting bored of the Suplex City thing now. It really just comes across as Brock being lazy. And I'm not just saying that because Dean Ambrose said that on the podcast a few weeks ago. It does feel like Brock Lesnar is here to do a few suplexes, win matches, and then go and do the UFC stuff, which is fine. I mean, he can do whatever the hell he wants. He's Brock Lesnar, but I just didn't find it to be a very enjoyable main event when it was just beating up Orton. Orton hits a couple of RKO's and a DDT. Lesnar kicks out. F5 kick out, and then, okay, now let's just do something really dangerous. And people have said that, Brock is, he knows exactly what to do, but when you take Brock Lesnar and you say to him, right, go out there and use your elbow to elbow Randy Orton in the head until he starts bleeding, you're pretty much, almost throwing a tiger out there and saying, go bite Orton in the head, but don't hurt him, too much. Apparently it was the plan for Brock Lesnar to open up Randy Orton like that and just elbow his head until he started bleeding, and that was the end of the match. But they didn't plan for it to be as much blood as it was, because as you saw, the blood was gushing out of Randy Orton's head like a faucet. I mean, it was just pissing out of his head. It was disgusting. And it just made me feel uncomfortable. To me, this isn't wrestling. I get it, it's supposed to look legit and supposed to make people question things, and it's like MMA style, and did Brock Lesnar go into business for himself and stuff? No, obviously that wasn't the case. I mean, it does make you wonder, I had thought maybe Brock just didn't care and accidentally did it, but no, apparently that was the plan. We had the story of Jericho kind of confronting Brock about it backstage afterwards and kind of getting into a bit of a heated debate about it. Even he got kind of worked by it, I think. But I just don't see it. I just don't see the upside of splitting someone's head open like that on a live pay-per-view, especially when the follow-up to that is, okay, we're fining Brock Lesnar $500. Shane says he's going to get revenge. And Randy Orton is just kind of going to move on to Bray Wyatt. I mean, there was no big Randy Orton fiery comeback like, I'm going to kick Brock. Obviously they're probably not going to do another match. So it makes Orton look bad, I think. And it was just too much of a risk to split someone's head. I mean, it's just, he cracked his fucking head open with his elbow, and oh yeah, it was a controversial finish and it was something different, but, is it really worth it? I don't think it is. That's not what wrestling is to me. We all know what it is, you don't need to kind of say, hey, look, this is real. We know it's not, we know it's not. It was dramatic, but I didn't really see, and I knew they wouldn't follow up with it that well. I mean, I remember WrestleMania 27, I think Triple H hit Undertaker in the head with a chair, and they said, okay, Triple H has been fined $10,000. Brock Lesnar fucking caves in Randy Orton's head on a live pay-per-view and he gets a $500 fine. It's a joke, I didn't really, dig it. And it's a shame because last year Brock was doing some great stuff. That three-way with Seth Rollins and Cena, incredible. His match with Roman Reigns, really good. Even his Undertaker matches last year. I don't know. I'm sick of Brock Lesnar at this point. I mean, I'll still get excited for it because it's always a big fight feel. You never know what is going to happen. But still, I didn't think it was a very smart or safe thing to do. But it is what it is. And what do I know? Then we have Monday Night Raw. Finn had to relinquish the title, unfortunately. Very sad for him. Hopefully he kind of... he's had his surgery now, and apparently it's even worse than they thought. So he's going to be out for even longer. But hopefully he'll be back for WrestleMania. But then, do you rush him into a WrestleMania match? I don't know. And then Bayley made her debut, which was awesome. I love that they had the same stage as SummerSlam. It was like they just left it there, and so it was a really cool moment. The fans were there for Bayley. She had a quick match with Dana Brooke, and it was just a great kind of coming out party for Bayley, I think, and it was really cool. I'm glad to see her on the main roster. I'm glad that through a series of unfortunate circumstances, Sasha Banks is out of the picture for the minute, which means that Bayley will go for the women's title for now. So she gets to come in strong, and people will get an idea of who she is right away, and she won't be brought in just to be brought in and kind of fade into the crowd. Apparently, they had no plans for Bayley, before Sasha had to take some time off. So. One of those things where one person's disadvantage can be turned into your advantage. So hopefully it works out well for Bayley. I'm a big fan of hers, and I have said for a while now I hope the main roster doesn't ruin her. But apparently Vince was really happy with how her debut went down, so that's always a good sign. SmackDown, again, I just watched the Dolph Ziggler AJ Styles match. That was pretty good. Cruiserweight Classic, another good episode last week. I loved the Drew Gulak and Zack Sabre Jr. match, really, really good. And also the TJ Perkins and who was the other guy? Johnny Gargano match. That was really good. Really, really enjoyed that. I definitely enjoyed TJ Perkins wrestling a lot more in that style. And I can't wait for the quarterfinals, which will be in a couple of days now. Really excited about the quarterfinals and kind of getting towards the end now. It's been a great ride, just kind of seeing everyone get whittled down and the names start to fill out all the spots of the next matches. And now we're getting down to the nitty gritty, the final 8. It's going to be great. I'm really, really hyped for the next few weeks of the Cruiserweight Classic. Podcasts, I listened to another episode of my good friend Gav, Flash Morgan Webster, his podcast, Wrestling Friends, I think he calls it, with Jack Gallagher, who appeared on the Cruiserweight Classic. They had a great hour-long discussion. Highly recommend that. I think it's called Morgan Webster's Wrestling Friends, if you want to check it out. Any other podcasts I've listened to? I've been listening to some of Sam Roberts' podcasts. He does kind of wrestling podcasts. I don't even know who he is really. I think he's a comedian, but he's done some good ones. I listened to one with Mick Foley and his daughter Noelle, which was really enjoyable. I listened to one with Kevin Owens, which was a lot of fun. And Michael Cole, which was actually quite interesting. That was kind of like a vintage one from a few years ago. But yeah, I haven't listened to any Austin podcasts recently, or Jericho for that matter. I think Jericho did a new one with Finn Balor, so I need to check that one out. That's about it for wrestling, I think. And there's been a lot of wrestling. SummerSlam was definitely too long for me. I was just so ready for it to be done by the time it was, about to be done. The Roman Reigns Rusev thing was just, I don't know. And then, tonight, it is Monday recording this, we're going to have a new Universal Champion crown, so I'll talk about that next time. And yeah, my prediction for that is it'll be Roman Reigns. But if it's anyone other than Roman Reigns, I'll be happy. But it is what it is. Reigns is going to be getting that title so many times over the next few years. There's nothing anyone can do about it. I just hope that they kind of get the hint. Like Carmella. She was dying a death on SmackDown as a face, getting no reaction whatsoever. So they turned her heel. Brilliant. They see it's not working, so they flip it. That's what they should do with Roman Reigns. They should just turn him full on heel. But I know what's happening. I know that they're building Brock Lesnar up again to be this unstoppable monster who will just destroy and decimate anyone in his path until Roman Reigns stops him at WrestleMania. Ooh. Oh, and of course the Miz promo on Talking Smack with Daniel Bryan. It was a really good promo, overrated I think. He kind of stumbled over his words a few times and things like that, but he did show this amazing passion that you rarely see. So I definitely see why it was a big talking point, and I'd like to think that it was kind of perhaps a gentleman's agreement between Bryan and Miz to kind of just for him to just go off on Bryan. Because I don't buy it being legit, but then there's always that element of, ooh, maybe, I like it when promos kind of, they go across that line where you think maybe there is some truth to this, but I don't think there is. But it was a really good promo by The Miz. I've always been a fan of his, not a huge fan, but I've always appreciated his stuff, and I think that Miz at his best is really pretty damn good. I don't think this will lead to kind of a big kind of renaissance of his career or anything, but it's fun that a lot of people were talking about him, and suddenly everyone was hating on Daniel Bryan and saying how shit he was and how great The Miz is, like, unironically, like I couldn't believe it. And now people saying Bryan's going to come back and wrestle Miz. Like, yeah, calm down. So that's been this week in wrestling, or this week and a half past, kind of. Yeah. Anything else I can add? Don't think so. So let me know if there's anything wrestling related you've been watching or would like me to talk about, anything like that. A few people said do this again, so I've done it again. I thought I could try and do this in 10 minutes, but there was so much to cover, so you're going to have to make do with 20. I'll see you in the next one.
So you might say he's a really nice guy, really, but if fucking don't cut shit with me. He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool.